stunned and horrified by what occurred this past week in Har Nof, Yerushalayim, with the murder of 4 individuals and the serious injuries that were brought on countless others. And our hearts and our tefillos, our prayers go out to every single individual who is bereaved and to the people who are suffering. And I know that everybody I've spoken to is just so preoccupied with what's happening over there. And the question is, how can we react in an appropriate way? What can we possibly do to make a difference? So first of all, let's just stop for a minute to absorb what it is that happened and why it is that this particular terrorist event has caught us in the core more than others. I think the answer is that we identify very much with these particular victims and their families because it happened in a neighborhood where so many of us, including members of our congregation, live. It happened in a shul where so many of us every day frequent a shul. That particular shul has been visited by people even when they go to visit in Israel because it's such a popular place to daven in that particular neighborhood. And almost everybody knows somebody who knows a victim or was touched by one of the victims. My son-in-law, the one who just married our daughter, was a student of Rabbi Moshe Twersky, may Hashem avenge his blood, and was very touched by him, changed his life. And that's just one of thousands. Leadership in the United States knows so many people who were either injured or killed. So there's a tremendous amount of personal contact here, so it's really gotten us at the core. And the other thing is that we all sense a violation of something that should have been inviolate. The holy space of a shul. It's just inconceivable to us that people can be standing and davening, and while they're dressed in talis and tefillin, be butchered, literally butchered with butchered knives and shot at in the middle of tefillah. We can't wrap our minds around it. And so we're shaken to the core by this. And the question is, how do we react? So first of all, we react as Jews. And as Jews, we never allow any of our enemies to weaken our resolve to stand for the things that Jews are designed to represent. And therefore, after we identify with the suffering of our brothers and sisters, after we take steps to relieve their suffering through tzedakah, and elsewhere in today's Shabbos email, there's information about how you can participate in making sure that funds go straight to the bereaved families and the families of the injured. After we do that, and after we cry, and after we daven to the Almighty to bring relief to these families and to stop the bloodshed and the suffering, after that there's something else that we can do. And this week I've spent quite a bit of time contemplating and conferring with others, and it seems to me and to other rabbis that one of the most important things that we can do is to affirm the sanctity of the shul, Kedushas Beis HaKnesses. And that means for us in this shul that we're going to be spending the next month, the Shloshim, the 30-day period, starting from this past Tuesday, when these 4 Kedoshim, these martyrs, were buried. We're going to be spending this time studying the laws and the concepts that apply to the sanctity of a synagogue, because there are many, many laws and attitudes about Kedushas HaMakom, the sanctity and reverence for a shul, that we can absorb. And so we'll be doing that, particularly between Mincha and Marav every day. In the morning after Minyan, we'll be studying the laws of talis and tefillin, because we have a sense that if we can be vulnerable while wearing talis and tefillin, while standing in shul, that maybe we have not been strong enough guardians of the sanctity of the shul, and perhaps we need to wake up and emphasize and focus on this kind of a thing. So we'll be studying that, and each Shabbos during this month we'll be focusing on some other aspect, some aspect of Kedushas Beis HaKnesses. This Shabbos I'm asking all the minyanim that gather here to focus on dibur, on speaking during davening. Thank God we're blessed with a community that does not have this as a plague that afflicts some synagogues, but there are certain improvements that can be had, and certainly we can come into shul with an attitude that we want davening to be a space of reverence and focus on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on the Holy One, blessed be He, and not be distracting by having conversations with other people. So we'll be focusing on that this Shabbos. And as well, we should take heed and take strength from the incredible initiative that emanated from the widows of 4 women whose husbands were murdered suddenly, unexpectedly, and brutally, where they write a letter to the community, and I'm looking at their letter now, with which they ask us to sanctify this Shabbos, which is Erev Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Kislev begins on Sunday. Sanctify this day by adding to it the concept of Ahavas Chinam, unending, baseless love. So it should be a day, they say, that is absent of any separation or argument or division or judgment or lashon hara, gossip. Be a day filled with connection to others and a day filled with love. If they can say that at a time like this, certainly we can follow. We can also make sure that we relate to each other with a sense of respect and a sense of reverence and appreciating in each other so many different aspects of our personalities and our characteristics, because when a tragedy like this strikes, we become aware of how precious everybody in our lives is to us. And let's not forget prayer. Let's not forget tefillah. We must turn to our Father in heaven. This is the power of the Jew. We continue to have faith in God. We continue to ask God to protect us, because in spite of the horrors of this past week, we must appreciate the fact that we are surrounded by forces that would love to do this all the time, and it doesn't happen. We have to appreciate the divine protection that we have, and we should make sure that we provide to others a source of comfort and encouragement as we go through some very difficult times. I know that everybody joins me in praying for the peace of Yerushalayim, the peace of the Jewish people, the comfort for the immediate family members who've lost loved ones, and actually in asking God to provide us with comfort and with hope, because He is the only source of our comfort and hope. I wish you all a good Shabbos, and may we gather for wonderful, holy occasions.